Hey, hockey fans, welcome to the latest edition of Our Line Starts as we are all self-quarantining. Very important right now, but even more importantly, I'm joined by my very good friends, Eddie Olczyk in Chicago and Brian Boucher joining us from his home outside of Philadelphia. Hey, guys.
So good to see you.
KT?
So this is our new reality here. We can't see each other in the studio, but we're going to be doing this as best as we can. What have you guys been up to? Ed, so I'll start with you. What's been your day-to-day? What has it looked like lately?
Just like everybody else, KT, it's been, getting up and playing with the dogs and working out, and then doing a little household cleaning in the closets into the office, and just trying to kill some time, just like everybody else. And for me, really, I mean, it's on a personal note, it's kind of taken me back to 2 years ago when I was sick and battling my stage 3 colon cancer, where it seemed like the clock never moved, like it just kept, every time I turn around, it looked like it was 10 minutes later, and it only been about, 5 minutes. And it was just really a surreal feeling for me personally to kind of be going back to what it was like a couple of years ago with all this quiet time for all of us. But we're all day to day and just trying to grind it out. And our family is doing the social distancing just like everybody else. And hopefully everybody out there, all hockey fans out there, all our great hockey fans all across North America and around the world are adhering to the medical personnel. And so it's, just kind of doing whatever is on the docket. And the one thing that is still going in my life is horse racing. So I'm a happy human. I'm able to follow the horses. So that's keeping me going between probably about 11:30 local time and about 6 o'clock at night. So as long as the horse racing keeps going and we're healthy, everything is good.
Where before I get to you, Bush, where are the horses racing right now? And so where are you watching them?
Well, we got horses running down in Florida, actually Gulfstream Park at Tampa. We got racing going on in Hot Springs, Arkansas at Oaklawn Racetrack. Got racing in California up near San Francisco at Golden Gate, and also in Arcadia at Santa Anita. So there are a couple other tracks as well. So obviously it's closed to the public, and they have their rules and protocols that they're going and following as well. But really, horse racing is the only game in town, so to speak. So I'm happy. It's helping me pass the time, that's for sure.
I bet. I'm going to jump on board. The Kentucky Derby, of course, rescheduled for September 5th. Boosh, how are you doing? What's new in your world right now?
Doing good. I'm going to tell you this. If this continues much longer, I might have to pick Edzo's brain and learn all I can learn about horse racing, because certainly pulling my hair out. I was temporarily living in Rhode Island during the winter, but since this all happened, we decided to come back to our house, which we were renting. Our renters moved out. So that they could go back to their primary residence. So a lot of moving parts for us. My son, who had been living in Michigan, moved back home, and we decided as a family we wanted to come back to our primary residence in southern New Jersey. So we came back here, and it feels comfortable to be in our own place and not in a place that we were renting for the year, and to trying to keep 2 teenagers locked up at home and not wanting to see friends is a difficult chore, but we're managing. I mean, just trying to work out when you can and get outside when the sun is shining. Today it's not shining, so we're inside battling the elements. But like Edzo said, just trying to do our part and kind of hunker down and stay out of harm's way and try to do what we're told. So certainly a new reality for all of us, but we're managing just fine.
Yeah. Are the kids in school right now, Boosh, or are they taking classes at home? How is that working out?
Yeah. So my daughter, she goes back to remote learning March 30th, which will be good because she's had quite some time off, and her hours are all over the place. She needs to get locked down and focus once again. My son, unfortunately, in Michigan, they were supposed to have the teachers learn about the remote learning or do a training course on it on the Monday, Tuesday of the following week before the governor of Michigan let everybody out on Friday. So unfortunately, they're still kind of in limbo. We don't know what's going on with that situation. So right now he's doing a lot of Xbox, and typically I would, be laying the hammer down on that. But seeing that, those kids are on lockdown as well, you got to let them have their freedom as best they can, and they communicate with their friends that way. But hopefully that'll get resolved here in the next couple of weeks as to what he does. But my daughter does start remote learning on March 30th, which will be good for her.
Hey, KT, hold on a second. So, Bush, you're going to get mad at Tyler for playing Xbox because you can't really do anything like everybody else. But let's tell everybody who made the decision for the family to go from Rhode Island back to South Jersey. Can we get that out there?
That was Tyler. Tyler for sure. Oh yeah. He wasn't supposed to be living with us in Rhode Island, so when he got there, he's like, "We're not having any of this, and we got to keep the king happy." So yeah, I'm weak. There's no doubt about it. I'm weak. When he speaks,
wow.
Yeah, the job gets done.
When we get back on the road, me, you, and Doc getting back and doing games for NBC at some point down the road here, boy, oh boy, we're gonna have some fun on the road, knowing now who wears the. We know who's in charge at home, but I didn't know that Tyler had that big of a hammer. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, he is the boss. There's no doubt about it. I just stay in my lane.
It's funny, and we all look forward to getting back on the road, and we'll bring in one of our other friends who's usually on the road with us. That would be John Forslund, one of our play-by-play announcers, the great voice of John Forslund, joining us now. Hey, there it is.
It worked.
Johnny.
It worked.
Johnny.
That's the
we
most.
all know what you've been doing the last 2 weeks. We all know what you've been doing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nothing. John, talk
True.
to us about the quarantine that you had to go under and why it was so severe for you, what you went through before you found out that you needed to be locked in your basement for 2 weeks.
Well, clicking into this was the most pressure I've had in 2 weeks. So at least we succeeded with that, right? So we're moving forward. This has been strange, guys. Great to see all three of you. I appreciate you guys reaching out, during the process and texting and all of that. And you know what? Rolling back to when it started, I didn't know really where this was going. The way I got the news was interesting. I mean, I was sitting on the bus getting ready to come back to Raleigh. The game was canceled in New Jersey. Our VP of media got on, kicked everybody off, wanted to talk to me alone. So then I got to think, well, something really bad's happened, maybe at home, God forbid, or something like that. I didn't know what to think. But he told me, I've been in the room occupied by Rudy Gobert, the Utah Jazz, and your life's going to change now. I said, okay, how are we changing? Well, we're not sure you can fly back with the team right now. We're working on that. That was a little bit of a concern. So they figured that out. They sequestered me up in the front, the first and only time I sat in the GM seat on the plane, which was a little scary. Had my phone up all the way down, told the coaches I was making deals. Just tell me what you want, boys. We're going to make some deals here. And, of course, the trading deadline had come and gone, so that was useless. But anyway, we got home. I got on the horn with my doctor, and I thought I would be eligible for a test. And that's where, the gray area comes in. I wasn't, based on the lack of symptoms. In the state of North Carolina, they weren't qualifying people like myself for testing. My immune system's a little bit compromised. I have an arthritic condition that I'm under medication for, but even that didn't work. So I self-quarantined for 2 weeks, KT. That was the end of that, and I put myself away. I don't like myself very much, so it was difficult, to say the least.
What did you do to pass the time?
Nothing. I could have been a lot more creative with it. I honestly, there's too much going on in the world. My kids were kind of like everybody upside down. They're coming home. Were they coming home? Were they not coming home? They all had their issues. In my daughter's case out of Clemson, she was told, she's on the staff there, she's a grad student, she was told, you can't go home because your dad might be, exposed to it. If you do go and come back, you might be quarantined for 2 weeks when you get back to Clemson. And they shut down the school, so then she was allowed to come home. My boy came home. But anyway, I'm no different than everybody else, just upside down all the way around. Watched way too much news, trying to figure out where this was going next, and connected with a lot of people. Spent a lot of time on the phone, and that was the real positive of all this.
Hey, Johnny, I want to ask you something. So how did
your name again, sir?
My name is Eddie Olczyk, and I'm going to
That's
look
right.
down on you right now, Johnny. So
okay.
How did the tie-in happen for people that don't know? How did the tie-in happen between you and the Utah Jazz player Rudy Gobert? How did the team find out, or how did you tell us?
Yeah, sure. So the Jazz played in Detroit on March 7th. The Canes played in Pittsburgh on a Sunday on March 8th. Jazz had a 5 o'clock game on the Saturday. Nobody else used their rooms until we got there 8 p.m. on Sunday. And Canes were there from Sunday through the game on Tuesday, went to New Jersey. And, you know, all this stuff happened Wednesday night, right? So
Right.
the game in Oklahoma City was canceled. He was positive. He did his little shtick at the press conference. I believe that was on Monday. Took a lot of ridicule for that, whatever. So anyway, it was on Wednesday, I think, when they actually cross-referenced the rooming list and tried to figure out who it was and who was exposed. And obviously the team was a little bit exposed too, with the locker rooms and, you know, the area
Right.
at Little Caesars Arena and all that. But they were next in. Tampa played there on Sunday. I'm not 100% sure where they stayed. If they stayed at the Westin Book Cadillac, maybe they had different rooms. I don't know. But I was the next guy in. And then they determined enough time had elapsed that it should be okay. And the cleaning staff assured everybody that they did a A1 job and I should be okay. But then you come home and the should be's turn into worry. And you just
Right.
wonder, you know, what's going to happen next. And every time my allergies kicked in last Wednesday around here, it's been really nice and everything's in bloom. And so I couldn't differentiate between allergies and maybe a symptom for the coronavirus. So took my
Right.
medication, that subsided and everything was okay. But that's how it went down. And
Okay.
then, you know, go Bear Forslund, natural progression.
I think all of us are kind of living in that, you know, fear of when you start. I live in New York City, so I'm in, you know, the
Right.
hotbed of all this right now. But you feel like, oh, I have a sniffle. Is that it? Is it not? It's very, very challenging to navigate. I can imagine the fear that you had, John, certainly being in the same room and being exposed to, you know, the possibility of having it back when you were in Detroit. But some scary stuff for sure. And then we're dealing with, of course, the conversation of where do we go from here with the NHL season. And every day it seems like the news is changing. When we might be back, when we won't be back. What do you guys think as far as the scenarios that have been thrown out? As far as, you know, if we start in July, if we start in August, I mean, have you guys thought at all about what would be the most beneficial at this point? Gooch?
I mean, I think we've got to give enough time, in my opinion, where we need to give the fans the security to know that if they go into a building, that they are safe in mass numbers. That to me is the most important thing. And getting into it prematurely and maybe having to limit the amount of fans that come in, or fans are still a little skittish about coming in, I don't know how that benefits really anybody. I mean, so. And we all know that the gate at playoff time is what's most important for the owners as far as, you know, recouping some of, you know, maybe the regular season losses. That to me is first and foremost. So I think I always look at, you know, when are we going to be at that point where now we're comfortable going in crowds and feeling like we can be around other people without having that fear of like, oh my goodness, am I going to catch it in an airborne situation? So that to me, I think it's got to be July, August. I don't think I can't think of a scenario where it could be anytime sooner in June. I just can't foresee a time that we're going to be comfortable, say in May, going into a crowd and feeling like I'm okay with this. You know, you're in a building with 17,000 people. I want to make sure that if we come back and play, that there's going to be fans there cheering these players on in the best environment possible. And I think we have to give it the most time we can.
Yeah, and I think KT, look, I think anything is on the table, but first and foremost, you know, we can't do anything until we get the okay from the powers that be, and that's the medical professionals that are making these decisions. And when they think it's okay for us to get on with, you know, whatever lives that we're living, then we're going to do it. And that's why everything's on hold. I think the league, I think all the sports league have done a really good job of handling, you know, this very difficult time, and it's difficult for everybody. Look, I mean, the sports part of it and everything, we got to get the health of our community and our country stabilized here. And then we can worry about, you know, is there going to be regular season hockey? Is there going to be playoff hockey? Listen, we want it tomorrow. I mean, we would all drop everything. You know, not that I'm doing anything right now, but we would drop everything that we are doing and get to wherever we knew we'd get to be able to call the greatest game in the world and be in front of the greatest fans and bring it to them on television and in whatever way that they're getting the games. But until I'm looking at it from the aspect, look, and until there are, you know, certain restrictions lifted and even start thinking about it, we're just for me, I'm just thinking about day to day and hoping that we have some sort of conclusion to, what the NHL has started here over the course of the first, 7/8 of the regular season. If we get in the playoffs, then great. If it's some regular season, great. But to me, that would be the best thing at all, is that we just have hockey. If we can get to that point, whether it's, in July or August, like Bush was talking, or whatever the people in the medical, field are telling us. And look, these decisions are being made much higher. And I think the league, the commissioner, Mr. Bettman and Mr. Daly have expressed that to everybody involved in the game. It's like, these decisions are coming from, higher than the NHL. This is like, they're going on direction from the medical professionals. And I think that's what we all have to live by.
Yeah, I think it's been every day you're watching the news and everything's changing. So therefore the league has to adjust as well. But I have to applaud the creativity. I think it's helping to keep people going, people at the league, reporters, fans that are chiming in as far as, okay, if we start in July and August, here's what could happen. Maybe we take the top teams that were already in it, or we expand the playoff field and make it 5-game series versus 7-game series. So I think just the creativity of what everyone's thinking about in ways that, if we find out tomorrow, all systems a go, they've got a plan in place for that. And even just that is creating excitement for fans, and just knowing that we're going to get out of this at some point. And the hope is that, maybe we can salvage some of the season, if not just start right off in October as well. But
KT, two things. One is, like, you're right. I mean, the hockey fans, we're all starving for it. And look at when we're having our our hockey week in America on NBCSN, and being able to watch a lot of these incredible games, whether they're Winter Classics or playoff games or Stanley Cup, people are just, they know how awesome the game is. And you're able to relive certain games. And, some of these games I was working, some games I was watching as a fan. And, you try to remember everything. Look, I can't remember what the hell happened yesterday, let alone what happened 8 or 9 years ago.
Feels like 100 years ago right now.
Yeah, but I think that those possible scenarios, right? Like, there's got to be hundreds of scenarios that how it plays out. But the one thing I think that I don't want to say hasn't been talked about, because everything has been talked about, is thinking about where these athletes might be. Our hockey players might be, as far as not necessarily conditioning wise, but more on the hockey conditioning part. And Bush, you can speak to this as well as anybody. There's something about being in shape, but being in hockey shape is a whole different animal. How long will the players need? How long will they have been off? Is it 60? Is it 60 days? Is it 90 days? I'm talking about being off the ice. Do they need a 2-week training camp? Do they need a 3-week training camp? Will they get any games in there? Goaltenders, all that kind of stuff. So I think all of those things are food for thought. But the one thing that I would look at it from a former coach's point of view and a former player's point of view, and how a broadcaster is, the time element. Are these, again, we don't know. Like, we could guess and we can surmise and we can hope. But if these guys are off 60, 90 days, they're going to need a couple of weeks for sure, without any doubt, of getting out on the ice and getting back in some sort of hockey shape. And then whatever hand that is dealt, they play that hand. So some food for thought for the hockey fans out there.
Yeah. And not to mention, a lot, the NHL allowed players to go home to their native countries. So we're talking about guys that are all around the world right now. When they come back, do they then have to go through a 2-week quarantine? All these things, right. In addition to the conditioning, a lot of questions going forward. Well, if the season ended today, I've certainly thought about this, and I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on, if you were to hand out awards today, let's say the season's over, no playoffs, we're done. We'll start back again with the next season in October. Who would you guys have? And Johnny, I'll start with you as your MVP of the year.
I might lean in Nathan McKinnon's direction. McDavid, Draisaitl, obviously off the charts.
Johnny, you only can take one, Johnny. Just take one. Don't take 30 guys.
Can't take all of them.
Is it? Okay. Do I have 10 seconds?
He's
Do I
been
have 10
locked up
seconds?
for a while, Edzo. Let him go.
Yeah.
All right.
I got a lot inside of me here.
Great.
Most of it you don't want to hear. I like McKinnon. I think McKinnon has carried his team. He's the most valuable player to that team. Maybe, you could argue the most talented player might be McDavid, but then again, he's supported by an equally talented guy in Draisaitl. They're both on the same team. Colorado's been an upper echelon team most of the season. So quickly off the top of my head, to make this as succinct as possible so others can jump in, Nathan McKinnon.
See, I would go Draisaitl in Edmonton, and I feel like McDavid's been out a little bit. There's been some injury issues, and McDavid's been fantastic. And you certainly can make a case for him, but the consistency for Draisaitl that we've seen now in multiple years. This is not just, and look, McKinnon's a great pick as well. But to me, Draisaitl has, maybe for the people out east, it's been pretty quiet in the sense that if you don't watch those games late at night, you don't see how great he really is. And yeah, he's got a complimentary piece there and another guy in the lineup that helps out McDavid. But man, oh man, he's been fantastic. And if not for look, when McDavid goes down, if you don't have a guy like McDavid, you wonder where that organization would be, or that team. I mean, I know Dave Tippett coming in there has done a great job in buckling things down a little bit. But when you have a guy like Draisaitl riding shotgun with McDavid, it's hard not to give him the credit that he deserves, considering that McDavid's out of line. So my vote would be for Draisaitl if it ended today.
Yeah, I would go with Draisaitl as well, but I'm going to give a little Johnny Forslund here too. I'm gonna, if somehow the Rangers would make the playoffs, and again, if we have for regular season, we all know what ifs are. I would not underestimate Artemi Panarin, the year that he has had and the impact that he has had on a team that a lot of people thought would, I don't necessarily be battling for a playoff spot as closely as they are, but the bread man has certainly delivered in a big way. And if they would somehow, if we would have the regular season and play 82, and what is he, a top, 3 or 4 scorer in the league right now? I mean, I haven't looked at the stats in a couple of weeks, but to me, he would be a guy that I think would, I think he would get a couple of top 3 votes. I don't think that he would win if the Rangers would miss, or if the season ended today, KT, I guess to your question, and I know listening is a skill. So would he be in my top 3? He might be. He might be in my top 3, but I would go with Draisaitl.
It's interesting you're talking about the Rangers there. I couldn't help but think the other day watching the Rangers-Capitals game that we had on Hockey Week in America, presented by Discover. Have we seen, and we probably have seen, the last game from Henrik Lundqvist in a Rangers uniform? I saw the interview he did with Pierre, and I just couldn't help but think, wow, if this were to end today and we don't have, the Rangers aren't in the playoff scenario, whatever we do going forward, is that the end of the King in New York? I think it's sad to think, because I love seeing him in a Rangers uniform, but it's the reality of the game, and time stands still for no one, right?
I totally agree with you, KT. The game doesn't stop for any one player, and the sentimental part of you, feels like, boy, it should end on better terms for Henrik Lundqvist. But I agree with you. I think we have potentially seen the last game for Henrik Lundqvist in a Ranger uniform. However, that breakup transpires in the offseason remains to be seen. Again, if the season was over right now, but they've got 2 very good young goaltenders with Shesterkin and Georgiev, and they've got to handle that prudently. And with those guys, their future is in their hands. They've got to worry about an expansion draft coming up, and for Lundqvist, he has to see it too. I mean, for everybody, Eddie, you're in the same position as me. At some point, the game just passes you by. And I'm not saying that he's not a good goaltender so that he couldn't still play in the National Hockey League. Maybe there's a spot for him to end up his career in another uniform. That'll be up to him. He's the one who said that he wanted to end as a New York Ranger. If he changes his mind and wants to play one more year and have a swan song in another city, that'll be up to him. And that's what, as players want, you want it to end on your terms. That might be the best way that it can end on his terms.
He's been the face of that franchise for a long time, and I mean, I tip my hockey helmet to him for everything that he has done, regardless, how this all plays out. But the one thing I will say, Bush, when you were talking about Georgiev and Shesterkin, they really like both those guys, Bush. They really do.
They
Yes,
love them. They love those guys. Yeah, they absolutely love those guys.
Oh boy. You guys, nice little inside joke there to end things. I have to say, I turn on Hockey Week in America, presented by Discover, every single day at 3 p.m. and I leave it on. And to your point, John, I'm done watching the news. It makes me sad.
Yeah.
I love hearing your guys' voices throughout the day. So in my house, surround sound. I got you guys on. So, and it continues all week long. If you guys are watching it, it's going to go through Sunday. Very, very exciting game.
That's KT. That's a nice place you got there. What do you get? You want to get a little tour there? What do you got going there? I mean, surround sound. How big is your place? I mean, surround sound.
You're looking at it. Yeah, I got Stonos in every room. Make sure I can hear you well, Ed. So I may even call you up and put you on speakerphone, like on the kitchen counter, and you can call.
Most people like that hit mute when I'm speaking, so that's about it. So.
I can't wait.
It is great. It is great to see you guys. It is great to see you all.
Really John, continue to be well. I'm glad you're
Johnny.
You can roam around the house now and go outside.
I'm free.
Well done self-quarantine, by the way. We all need to be doing that. Guys, good to see you. We'll have to do this again soon.
See you, KT.
Love you guys.
All right,
Thanks.
guys.
Johnny, love you guys.
Appreciate it. See you, boys. See you.